He said, "We were so scared. We fled in a hurry. There was utter silence as the wind stopped, and the temperature dropped instantly. They were shocked to the core. I never saw them so scared." What you're about to hear is a real-life story I have been reluctant to tell, since people in general do not like it if you claim to know stories that cannot be proven. Years back, I met a guy at the time. I was doing uphill training on a mountain, and he stopped me telling me he knows me from basketball I played back in the day. So I hardly remembered him. With him was his friend, a tall, muscular man who was exceptionally open to chatting. And the next time we met, we talked about doing uphill runs together. Most of it was cycling, and that got to be like a 2-year deal before the fascinating event. He was and still is a player, constantly using the nature to lure women into the woods for some good time, and he became like a part-time buddy, reminding me of how his love life rules and mine doesn't. Every time I see him now, he's showboating as I'm stopped by his car and a new girl he's sporting. One of those times we were talking about girls, as we were returning from a midnight hike, and sounds were piercing the night sky, giving us suggestions of eerie movie films we were watching as kids. Hearing twigs breaking, strange howling noises. We knew those were just midnight creatures, described to our minds as abolitions of the night. I said to him, "This truly makes a man walking alone test his manhood. That is why I go every night to make myself feel the fear, and do it anyway. Yet always the shadows make strange postures and shapes that inspire my imagination to create some suppressed monsters lurking in my subconscious, only waiting to come out if something moves." This made him chime in and say, "I was once in a real one." That sparked my curiosity, so I asked him to describe it. He said his father told him nature is the cure for all mental displeasure, so he was always hiking alone, and at that time he took the route that was just a couple of kilometers behind us. It was night, and he was traveling alone at 10 p.m., and suddenly he saw a shape a couple of meters to his right. Since it looked like a fox or a dog, he discouraged the thought and let it go, yet the shape persisted in following him. He said him being tall and a sports aficionado and a karate practitioner, he was not initially afraid. Totally disregarded the creature. Another kilometer passed by, and he looked again, and this time, he said this was the first time he got worried. The shape did not resemble anything in the animal kingdom. He started to up the pace. As he got to a clearing outside the woods, the shape was certainly not a fox, dog, or any known predator living in these woods. He was really scared for the first time. He said I was starting to make myself look even bigger, waving my hands and making loud noises. But the thing was relentless and kept by his side, pursuing him until he got to a small crest where a couple of houses were and a small Christ cross, the story which we're all here for. I pressed him on the looks of the creature, yet he was so scared and petrified at the time. It was all a blur to him. He followed up by saying, "This was not the only time I saw strange things, and at the moment, I thought he's now making up stories. But since we had time to lose, I said, what the heck, this was already interesting and quite close to us, making the hair stand up on my neck." The other instance was as I expected, one he experienced with some of his girls as he was taking her to a place no one would bother, on a plain outside of the city, in search of some romantic stargazing. As the night reached its peak, he saw some lights circling his car. The moment was as he described, totally harmless, yet it gave him time to gather himself and leave with caution. He described them as small, golf ball-sized lights, yet emitting some serious power while circling the car. The story was interesting, but since I have heard my fair share of weird and superstitious stories my whole life, I held my opinion to myself and just played it cool and let him rant on. From that day on, he never roamed that far, but just kept his constant route, same as I do, since it gave us time to talk and bond. Then COVID happened, and we separated for a while. It took an unbelievable toll on all of our friendships. People started directly ignoring me, and even though I knew it happened to everybody, my ego took a hit, and we really lost all contact for a year. One day I was returning from the mountain. It was pretty dark, and as I was going downhill on a crossroad, I was abruptly intercepted by a car, blocking my path. Almost struck my body. My blood boiled instantly as I prepared to fight the person that cut me off. It was winter time, and I only ascend the mountain in the dark, as my energy levels usually peak only in the afternoon. So this day was just like the rest, as I got lost in thought. sometimes thinking about what the dark provokes in a human. It was around 9 p.m. and the night was already covering what was a cloudy and damp day. While I was in my head processing some meaningless stuff, I got almost ran over, what I think is just some random jerk. And when the car stops, a man jumps out, and it is my friend, clearly shaken and totally need to talk to me, while in the seat next to him, another woman. Once she saw that we were buddies, she came out and joined in the conversation. I had regained my composition and just started to see. They're both scared, and now I need to know why. My friend says, "Do you walk along this route routinely every night?" And I say, "Of course," and he replies, "Do you see things?" Well, now I'm a little scared. My panic mode goes rampant. Was I close to something that was really dangerous? Now I'm all ears, and in demanding fashion I say, "Please tell me, I will not judge you if it's a crazy sighting." Both started talking over each other, so I had to play intermediate. One at a time, I said, and she was adamant to go first. "I am scared. We were at the top," she says, and we felt horror. He quickly interrupts and asks, "Was I going past the top, which leads to another mountain, near the cross, exactly where the so-called creature stopped haunting him?" I replied, "No." "So what happened?" I asked, and they both replied, "We were so scared. We fled in a hurry. There was utter silence as the wind stopped, and the temperature dropped instantly." "What do you mean instantly?" I have said. "Yes," she said, and the weird thing was, there was no wind. Now that is strange, but could it be some other phenomena, other than paranormal? Like what, he said. Well, maybe underground radiation, maybe a weird place where thermal and rocks meet. They both said this was definitely some ghosts or some weird paranormal phenomena. I did not want to be the guy to totally discredit the story, so I have said, maybe you're right. People do not like to be thought of as stupid or lame, so I went along to make them feel validated. They suddenly became calmer, and we chatted also about not connecting for a while, and how we must start doing the cycling thing again. I agreed, and we set to meet another time for a much-needed sporting rendezvous. We met again a couple of days later, but this time we kept to ourselves. I did not ask about that day, and he never went further, as we both recognized it was okay not to discuss a strange event like this. But in a month's time, we were again going back on foot in the dark, and he had to give it closure. "You know, I was chatting with the villagers at the top," he said, "and one of them gave me a story that I think corroborates what I saw to be true." "Really?" I replied. "Is it related to the event that happened?" "Yes," he replied. "It was giving me confirmation that me and my girlfriend at the time were right." "So what did he say?" I asked. But now I'm all ears, and I cannot stop giving him all of my attention. It took him some time to get the thing out of the villager, who was not keen on giving information like that, so my friend gave him his whole description of the event that took place that night. That was enough to let him open up. My friend was hesitant, as he needed to hear he was not crazy or deluded, and the old man replied, "My father was a witness to a gruesome event that took place here in the Second World War. A plane crashed, and as it did, it was crashing through multiple trees. It scattered the bodies of the people on board, and left them on the same trees. His father had to go up and to collect the remains of the people, one by one." My friend was shocked, but felt that this was closure enough. As the old man said, his father wanted no more of the story, as it was a taboo subject in the family from that day it was first told to him. We were both silent for a couple of minutes afterwards, taking in what is an event that cannot be proven. Is the spot haunted? Is it just their imagination? Or were they both just making assumptions on the nature of how we get easily spooked and fill the rational void of explanations with stories that are just made up and reflect the upbringing of a popular culture of movies, books, fairy tales, and village fables that were presented to us? I sometimes ask him about the story and he never changed his mind. But should I? If you like the content, please subscribe to the channel. I will make more. And do comment if you have a similar experience.